Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. If we can start with a moment of silent reflection and remain standing for O Canada. And maybe this evening while we stand, we can take time to reflect and remember those who have passed from this terrible virus and keep their families in our thoughts and our prayers. Thank you. Members of council, you've had a chance to look at items on the agenda. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interests? None noted. Thank you. Adoption of the closed minute meetings and regular meetings of March 10th, 2020 and be adopted as presented. Moved by Akpata, seconded by Councillor Spagnolo. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Mayor's comments, just a couple. It'll be a month on the 17th that the Ontario government declared a state of emergency in our province, and it has been extended another 28 days. We will get through this together with persistence, patience, and prayers. I know we can do it, and let's lend our support wherever and whenever we can. I'd also like to take this time to thank our EOC team. A few of them are on this meeting tonight, and Chief, Joe, Dale, Ed, and many others. It includes 25 personnel. Joe and his department heads have worked tirelessly to keep the town functioning at a safe and high level. I'm very proud of the work Joe and his team have done. You guys have no idea how many hours they have been spending behind the scenes to keep this thing going and the town of LaSalle functioning, as well as now the change in the working schedule, the blue team, the green team, public works and parks and rec, etc. So Joe, many, many thanks. Now, Joe, I'll turn it over to you to give your presentation and your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the last 2 months, the Emergency Operations Center, as well as the senior management team, has been monitoring the changing and unfortunate, in some cases, worsening situation with respect to COVID-19, as well as the high lake level and river levels. We've been developing and deploying plans to adapt to this ever-changing environment and evolving situation. Prior to the onset of COVID-19, the EOC group was in partial activation, and we were beginning to plan for the upcoming high river and lake waters and potential flooding. This was a carry forward coming out of our emergency planning exercise that was held in November of 2019. High water levels continue to affect our area and the greater Great Lakes Basin. In LaSalle, primarily along the Front Road corridor, it affects about 1,500 properties, which includes those with structures and those vacant. We have developed further information for property owners in anticipation of the flooding, which is available on our website. This has also been mailed out to the affected homeowners and property owners along Front Road. We continue to push out messaging through our various social media platforms, as well as our traditional media channels regarding the dangers of high water, as well as being prepared for flood and hopefully not, but potentially evacuation scenarios. We continue to develop plans and methods to deal with the impending flooding, including traffic plans for the closure of Front Road, offering sandbags and sand at the Public Works Yard, as well as the former Centennial Arena location. As well, staff has been preparing sandbags for our own municipal infrastructure, pumping stations and low road areas that are at risk of flooding and failure. We, as well as other municipalities within the region, are encouraging property owners to have a backup plan in the event that they have to vacate their homes as a result of rising waters. You should know where to go and what to bring. Under normal conditions, the establishment of an evacuation center is difficult. However, in the environment of COVID-19 and social distancing, the successful and safe deployment of an evacuation center becomes that much more challenging. As the mayor mentioned, we are under a state of emergency. On March 22nd, Mayor Bondi, along with the mayors of the other local municipality, joined the warden at the county to declare a state of emergency. Shortly thereafter, each mayor announced a similar declaration in his or her respective municipality. Some may be wondering, what does this declaration do? It does three main things. The first is it promotes awareness and importance. It brings a sense of heightened importance and to the issue at hand, in this case being COVID-19 and high water levels. It also sends a message to the community as to the seriousness of the issue. It also has an effect on the municipal operations. The declaration allows the municipality to operate more swiftly and respond more quickly, and allow the municipality to set aside bylaws, contracts, and agreements. To be clear, though, these actions need to stay within the confines of the law. It also allows the municipality to access provincial funding and resources if they become available and should they be required. As part of the Ontario State of Emergency, Premier Doug Ford announced the mandatory closure of all non-essential businesses. The original list of the essential businesses was quite extensive, however, has been reduced as the pandemic has evolved, and is relatively consistent with what has been ordered as non-essential and closed by our local health unit. In reviewing the list, it would indicate that most municipal functions are included in the essential services category, save and except our recreational services and some of our administrative services. In times like these, communities look to the municipality for leadership, for the comfort of knowing that their town will continue to provide the essentials and basic needs to ensure that they continue to live normally as best as possible during these times of crisis. Like many, we have grappled with trying to balance providing those municipal services to ratepayers, our legal and moral obligation for the health and safety of our staff, retaining staff capacity to deal with workloads and emergencies, and finally, to be fair, compassionate, and creative to all those involved. That includes the residents, includes our staff, and certainly members of council. At the emergency operations meeting on Tuesday, April 7th, a decision was made and was endorsed by the EOC, recommending that we divide the staff into two teams and implement a rotating staff system for the next 4 weeks. This will be reviewed after every 2-week period and to be evaluated for effectiveness. Again, staffing is continuously evaluated. And as we've seen that some areas have had decreases in workload, those areas have been given additional responsibilities, projects, and have been reassigned where possible to other areas. We've also issued a number of protocols that deal with voluntary layoffs and leave of absence for those staff members that are interested. We took these actions for a number of reasons, including the preservation of staff capacity, increasing caseload and expectations in the coming weeks, to be consistent with the messaging that from the provincial and federal government to limit time away from home. Certainly in reduction of the allowable gatherings and a reduction in the essential services category list from the province. This also is consistent with the closure of recreational amenities and mandated social and physical distancing measures. This 4-week period will allow us to reassess how we operate, and if conditions worsen, make the necessary arrangements. We have changed a number of the municipal services that have been provided, both reducing or canceling some of those. Included in that is the town municipal facilities are closed to the public, including the senior center here at Town Hall, as well as the library. All recreational facilities and community spaces are closed. Recreational activities have been canceled, and any recreational cultural activity set to occur in April and May have been canceled. All spring programming at the Volmer has been canceled. All playground structures, including courts, which include pickleball, tennis, and basketball, as well as skateboard park, has been closed. All town-owned soccer fields, baseball diamonds are closed for the month of April and into May. This situation will be reassessed at the end of May as we continue to reassess our municipal assets. One of the ice pads will be removed, and the second ice pad will remain. This is obviously to minimize the strain on the system in the summer months when we reinstall ice. The opening of the splash pad, which is normally scheduled for the long weekend in May, has been deferred and postponed. The boat ramp operation has been closed as well as a result of the COVID-19 social distancing, as well as the high water levels. Currently, and there have been no passes sold this year. Transit services have also been canceled and until the end of April. All RFPs and RFQs have been canceled, and managers have been asked to ensure that competitive processes are still available where possible. As part of this council meeting, we will be reviewing the status of the Strawberry Festival as well as the last call before Fall Festival. Again, those items are on the agenda for tonight and for discussion. In closing, I'd just like to say we've taken a number of actions in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the high water levels and impending flooding conditions. However, the municipality can only do so much. We all have a responsibility, whether it's to stay safe and limit the spread of COVID-19 or prepare for high water levels. Simple things like we should all be washing our hands, disinfecting services, practicing proper protocol when it comes to coughing and sneezing, practicing social and physical distancing whenever possible, and limiting the amount of time away from home to the greatest degree possible. For those that are in possible flood areas, they need to take the responsibility for their own well-being and plan and prepare to ensure for their personal safety. With that, those are my remarks in terms of the status at this point in time. I am available for questions if members of council do have some. If not, I would suggest that a motion to receive the verbal report would be appropriate.
Any council questions? Sue, and then Jeff. Sue, you have to push your space bar to talk, please. Maybe we can get Greg to help you and we can go. Oh, there you go, Sue. You should be able to talk.
Okay. It's not a question. I just wanted to say thanks to Joe and yourself and the whole team for what they're doing. It's not an easy situation for any of us to be dealing with, and for the amount of time and effort that's going into it, you are all to be commended. We've had, of course, calls about what's going on at the dock and trying to explain things that are going on there. I think people are finally starting to understand. People in the flood-prone areas are getting an idea of what to expect, and especially after last year. So it's basically a case of thanks for the great job that you're doing, and hopefully this will end soon and we're all going to come out of it in much better shape.
Thank you, Sue. Jeff?
Thank you, Your Worship. Very similar, Joe, I would like to extend thank you to the entire team, especially to yourself. Your communication through this entire situation has been fantastic. We've been kept on top of everything. People have asked me, what our meetings have been like, and I said there hasn't been meetings, but we have been there for the entire ride, every twist and turn, sometimes twice a day. And I want you to know that it's very well appreciated. It really helps us instill even more confidence in the community and be able to give the right messages out there. So thank you very much to everyone.
Joe, you want to say something?
Certainly, we appreciate the support that council has given us, but certainly, there's a team effort that's been going on here. We have a number of people involved with all aspects of what we're going through. I will say that the first, from the beginning of March till probably about the end of March, the pace of change was quite rapid, and it was almost unbearable at times. But we have a very prepared team and a very competent team here at the town that has been able to deal with those twists and turns all through April, or through March into April. Certainly things have slowed down a little bit into April, and the news seems to be getting just marginally better. And that sometimes it's trying to find that silver lining, that things seem like they're going in the right direction. Again, that doesn't mean that we're letting off the gas pedal, because certainly that I think we still have a ways to go, but certainly. Again, some of the news that we're hearing coming out of the health unit and coming out of our region certainly bodes well for us, at least in the short term, and hopefully all those actions that we've been taking up now will pay dividends in the long term.
Thank you, Joe. Jeff, you have a question?
I just want to make a motion to receive the report.
Moved by Councillor Reno, seconded by Deputy Mayor Crystal Malash. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. We have no delegations. We have updates to our procedural bylaw to allow electronic meeting participation during a declared emergency. Agatha?
Before you have a report regarding electronic meeting participation during a declared emergency for Bill 187. That was enacted in March of this year. The amendments to the procedural bylaw have been outlined in the report. It's basically to allow for electronic participation, how you'll raise your hand, all the steps you'll take. But the rest of the procedural bylaw still remains intact, and you must follow the closed meeting rules and the open meeting rules. And for closed meeting, we can have electronic participation. Also, in this procedural bylaw, during an emergency, electronic participation, a quorum is counted towards quorum. You guys are counted towards quorum. Whereas in a normal circumstance with electronic participation, that wouldn't be the case. And we have a bylaw at the bylaw stage to adopt with section 13 that will be only intact until the emergency is done.
Council questions? Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Agatha, everything looks great. I mean, we've been kind of living this, and we're living at this very moment. My only question would be about the very last point in the report about delegations. And obviously for tonight, we don't have any delegations, but if this was to go on for 3-4 months, eventually there's going to have to be people that have to get in front of council. How do you plan on dealing with that if this is an extended stay online?
Currently, right now, with the municipalities that we've been in contact with, and we had a Zoom meeting actually on Thursday, they are only allowing electronic participation at this point, with the restrictions of no more than 5 people in a council like in a group. It's kind of hard to have a council meeting and have delegations. Right now they can submit, but as time goes on and as restrictions may be lifted, then at that point we'll have to revisit it.
Okay, thank you, Agatha.
Deputy Mayor Crystal Malash.
I don't have any questions. I just moved to receive the report and approve the bylaw.
Okay, so we'll approve the report and the bylaw will be later. Moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Malash, seconded by Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Item E2, delegation of authority to administration during a declared emergency. Ms. Armstrong.
So again, this report was created that during a declared emergency, because we don't have council meetings as often as we would like, there are certain things that we can delegate to the CAO, which has kind of been going on right now with your communications that he provides to you and updates that he provides to you, and also to the treasurer. So right now I have outlined the items that we are requesting delegation of authority for the CAO and for the deputy treasurer, or for the treasurer, I'm sorry. And also that once this is all done, the CAO will come back with a report outlining what he approved during this declared emergency. And also the treasurer will outline what was approved, we created a GL account to allow for expenses to go under COVID-19, so that if there is funding from provincial governments or federal governments, that we will have what we spent in place so that we can send it off.
Thank you. Council's pleasure.
Motion.
Moved by Councillor Desjardins, seconded by Councillor Edicia Spiniolo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Now for item E3, we have a request from a citizen to defer, to defer this until we come to more normalcy so that we can get reports from administration and developers, etc. So if to defer it, we need a motion from council. Does administration want to speak to this prior to deferring?
Sure, I will speak to it just briefly. Again, the reports before council is part of the delegation of authority. It's separated out from the previous delegation because the first was to deal mainly with the under a declaration of emergency, while this report is more so of something that would be ongoing. This has been something that has been talked about by council administration for some time, and we just thought it best to bring forward at this point in time. Again, we can defer it if council so wishes, but certainly this is part of what we would normally be doing as part of a council meeting.
So Joe, just to be clear, if we were in normal proceedings today, you would still recommend approving this?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions from council? Councillor Carrick.
Thank you. In the report there, it says the public meetings held under the rezoning and lot creation provisions and planning act would not be affected by the delegation of the site plan control approval of the CAO and Director of Development Strategic Initiatives. Those would continue to take place and council would continue to be the decision-making authority of all of these planning acts. So is that basically covering what's being requested here to defer?
So, sorry, I missed the last sentence.
Well, I'm reading from the report there. It says those would continue to take place and council would continue to have a decision-making authority for all those planning act applications. That was in regards to the public portions of the meeting. So in that section on page 27, the third paragraph down, that would that cover what this basically request refers to?
That's correct. Those items we cannot delegate. Those ones would still remain with council.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Meloche, did I see your hand go up?
Yes, I think I'd like to defer it. We've had a resident request for it to be deferred. Mind you, when this does get back to normal and we get to meet in front of council, it may not receive any objection, but it would be nice to at least have the input from any of our stakeholders in the community. So at this time, I would ask that we do defer it.
So are you making a motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Desjardins. All in favor? That carried. Motion to defer. Status of LaSalle festivals in 2020. Patty Finnegan.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
So I don't have much more to add to the report other than that the situation does continue to change with respect to special events and festivals across the province. And we're seeing more and more festivals being canceled every day. And I'm available should you have any further questions to my report.
Council's pleasure. Deputy Mayor Meloche.
Just I have a quick question through you to Patty. I know in the report it says we won't lose anything now if we cancel the festival, and I am in favor of canceling the festival, as I don't believe we can, one, plan this festival in such a short period of time, let alone if the restrictions will be lifted for us to even host this. But we haven't made any deposits as of this point.
No, we have made 2 deposits, one for tents with Festival Tent and the other for fireworks. However, we're working with both those vendors to apply those to other events. But as we were planning and booking things, we sensed this may be coming, so we held off a bit on the deposit.
Okay, and just to follow up, and just want to be sure, we're asking to just cancel 2020. We're not looking at moving it at all at this point, right?
Correct.
Okay. I would put a motion to support the report that was put in front of us to cancel the 2020 Strawberry Festival. However, keep an eye on month to month for the fall last call before Fall Festival.
We have a mover. Councillor Reno, do you have a question or are you seconding?
Both, actually. I just wanted to say that, I agree. I mean, I've been involved with a lot of these festivals and, there's a fairly long planning window, although most of the work gets done in the last 3 months. We're beyond that point at this point. So I agree with everything that Crystal had to say. And what I would like to just add is that I would like to see a similar report come before council for the July 13th meeting so that we can make a definitive decision on the last call before fall.
Deputy Mayor Malott, are you okay with that amendment?
Did you say July 13th?
He said July 13th, I think.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Items to be received. Item G1, LaSalle Parks level of service during the pandemic. Mr. Mara.
Thank you. So the report I have before you tonight is basically outlining the level of service that will be coming forward during these times, during this pandemic and the emergency situation. So in the report, it has a lot of information. So Parks Department takes care of a number of things. Our own town staff take care of the Walmer Civic Center Park, Gilmore and Front Road Park, all of the sports fields. Particularly of interest is when you flip to page 2 of the report, it has the basic level of services, what will be done through this time and what won't be done. So basically the things that will not be occurring during this time is any enhanced sports field maintenance outside of the basic cutting once a week. We will not be doing any flower planting and garden baskets with the exceptions of just removing the current bulbs that are planted and some general weeding throughout the year. Obviously, we have no event setups at this point. Most of the events have been taken care of. Boat ramp is currently closed. Spring cleanup of parks is going to be limited in nature. The memorial program will be placed on hold. We will be able to take orders, but we will be clear as we take the orders that there is no confirmed installation dates of any of those memorials. The tree planting program and replacement will be limited in nature for this duration, and playground construction will be limited in nature. So that goes through a number of things. So basically from the town staffing perspective, we have 3 full-time staff and 9 seasonal staff, and we usually bring on 10 students. So for this year, we will not be bringing on the students, and we will keep the 3 full-time staff employed with taking care of the basic level of services. With respect to the seasonals, although we have 9 budgeted for, we only actually have 6 positions filled. So we will hold off on filling the 3 vacancies for the time being. And with that staffing level, we suspect that we can take care of the basic level of services. With respect to external contractors, we have 2 contractors cutting the rest of the parks. So we will carry on with both of those contractors. We have confirmed with them that they will be able to attend to our parks needs. And basically what we're looking at doing there is basically 1 cut every 7 days in the parks. And that's to keep the growth of the grass at an acceptable level to make sure that we don't have any long growth, grass growth that would promote or harbor mosquitoes or ticks and things of that nature. One key thing that we should be aware of is as soon as we get the all clear that we're all good to start programming and all that type of stuff with respect to sports fields, there will be a 4 to 6 weeks turnaround for getting those sports fields in playable conditions, lines, nets up and things of that nature. So there will be a bit of a delay. So again, if we get the all clear, I want to just be clear that we won't be able to the next week provide access to the sports field. So we want to be clear with our user groups that this is the way it's going to take some time to get them back into playable shape. There is one financial implications with respect to this. So the flowers have already been, the order for the flowers have been placed for 2020. So currently we're working with the local vendor. We're trying to reduce some of those costs the best we can at this point. So basically we have a budget commitment of about $17,000 for flowers. Without planting them, we will be trying to reduce that the best we can. And what we'll have to figure out later on is we will take possession of the flowers and flats, and then we will have to, as a town, we'll have to utilize how we deal with those flowers that we take possession of. We are working with the supplier. They suspect that they should be able to keep some of them and sell them as part of their business. However, we'd be required to take the rest. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Council's pleasure. Councilor Reno and then Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Your Worship. Peter, just a quick question. I mean, obviously all this stuff makes good sense. And number 9, playground construction. I just want to know if you could give us a quick update on the completion of Heritage Park, how far we are from completing, and if that'll be completed at this time.
Currently, the contractor has removed themselves from the site. There is a bit of, we still need to get through the process of what is essential services. So certainly the playground is currently closed. It has fencing around it. There are some various things that we need to take care of, and it is currently in a safe condition. But we, again, fine grading and planting grass, I'm not sure whether that could be deemed essential, but we need to work through that. So I don't have an answer for you tonight, but we are continuing to work through all of the current contracts that we have, what is essential and what will carry on with some of that work. So that will probably be subject of a further report with an update on some of the various of contracts that we currently have out.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Mara. My question really goes to the sports fields. I realize you're saying 4 to 6 weeks for us to be able to do the work to make it playable again. I was wondering if we could reevaluate in 28 days, since that's what the state of emergency was extended to, because I really think after 28 days, if things aren't changing, then we need to make that decision just to close it for the season, only because I know our user groups are still trying to plan for a late season, and they're needing to decide if they have to refund their own people as well. So it'd be nice if we could just, I hate to say cancel season, but at 28 days from now, make that final call so that everyone can kind of figure out the rest of the summer and how to handle the situation. I think, like I said, the 28 days for me, just if in 28 days things are good, then we could start maybe planning to try to get some of that work done so that they could get on those fields for July. And then they'd have all July and August, hopefully, to play. But like I said, in 28 days, if things aren't changing, the emergency order isn't lifted, then I think we should just make that final decision at that time.
Certainly, we can revisit this in 28 days. It's just for council's notes that as soon as, if everything is fine after the 28 days, it will take us some time to get some of the fields up and going. And we would work with user groups, which ones they want us to concentrate on first, depending on who's using them. And so we could kind of gear our efforts towards which fields might want to be available sooner. Because again, we don't need all 4 to 6 weeks to get all of them. As they get completed and back online, they can start to make use of some of those. But certainly we can revisit this again in 28 days.
Thank you.
Council's pleasure. Deputy Mayor Malash, motion received. Councilor Reno, second. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. First quarter property tax write-offs. I think this is the lowest number I've seen since I've been on council. Council's pleasure.
Move to receive.
Councilor Reno, seconded by Councilor Carrick. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Summary of reports to council.
Make a motion to receive.
Moved by Councilor Reno, seconded by Councilor Akpata. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Bylaws. All 6 bylaw, oh, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, just again, we would ask that the bylaw number 8421, that was the delegation of authority bylaw that's been deferred as part of the report. So that bylaw would be removed.
Okay, on the remaining 5 bylaws, all 3 readings. Councillor Reno, seconded by Councillor Akpada. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Any council questions? We'll go with Deputy Mayor Malash, then Councillor Reno.
Thank you. My question's for you too, Mr. Mara. It's just regarding any of our construction projects we had started or possibly were planning for this spring, summer. Do we have any plans to continue with any of those? I know I think it was last week's order stated that new construction had to halt. So I'm not sure where we stand. I know we had Front Road project, we had a couple other things. Are we trying to do any of those, or are we just going to put everything on hold at this time?
As I mentioned earlier, it will be probably a subject of a further report. Front Road water main, that's fairly simple. That's easy to identify as an essential service. We're currently working with the contractor to identify a start date on that stuff. With respect to finishing heritage, most of the essential services, most of the essential part of that has been completed. It's all the finishing touches. So we're struggling a little bit with that one, but again, we'll continue to work with the contractor on that. And then our only other outstanding contract would be the parking lot at the Volmer there for the one that we were getting ready for the Strawberry Festival. So we have, that contractor has left this site as well. That one is a little bit more difficult to identify as an essential service. So again, we will be coming back to with a report with all the contracts. That's just the 3 larger ones off the top of my head. Obviously, we just spoke about our contractor for the parks cutting. We are going to have them carry on. So we're working on something to figure out what the best way to do it is, and working within the confines of the contracts.
Thank you.
Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Back on January 8th of 2019, Council made a decision on cannabis retail licenses in LaSalle. We chose to receive the report from administration recommending to opt out and sent a letter to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of that decision. But we also further committed to revisiting the issue in 1 year to get any updates that could be provided. I'd like to ask administration to provide council with updates to the retail cannabis situation in Canada, as well as the changes in provincial modeling for retail shops, so that we may make an informed decision if we would like to continue to opt out.
I can't see Joe.
Mr. Mayor, I am still here. My computer seems to be freezing up, but
Okay.
again, we can certainly report back to council on that. I would suggest perhaps if we could schedule that report to happen in the fall. We have just recently in the region here had our first cannabis store open. And so I'm curious to understand some of the reluctance at the time of the report was to try to understand what the effects of that would have on the municipality. And so I wouldn't mind if we had a little more time to understand how the operations would affect a municipality, what the effects might be on bylaw and police, and from that perspective. But certainly we'd be prepared to come back to council with a report, but I would suggest that perhaps the timeline of that would be more towards the fall months at this point.
I respect that. Thank you, Joe.
Statements by council. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Malash. You went. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Statements by council members. Oh, yes. Mark Carrick, Councillor Carrick.
Thank you. I'll make it quick. I thought this might be the appropriate time to thank members of administration, our essential services, the mayor and members of council for being very supportive of what our administration has gone through, and our employees as well as essential services in the town, and as well our residents for trying to stay safe, social distancing. This is very trying times, and we'll keep moving forward and we'll get through this, but it's going to take some time. And everybody here needs a big shout out and thank you very much for the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Carrick. Reports from committees. Notices of motion. Confirmatory bylaw, first reading. Councillor Akpada and Councillor Adiccio Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Second reading, Deputy Mayor Malash, Councillor Desjardins, all in favor. That carries. Thank you. Third and final reading, Councillor Carrick and Councillor Reno, all in favor. That carries. Thank you. See you next meeting. Good job, everyone, on your first Zoom meeting. Stay safe. Good night.